Hi, my name is Sana and welcome to Speak Night. In today's video I want to talk about Jodie Turner-Smith being cast as Anne Boleyn, historical accuracy and performative wokeness. So on Friday it was announced that black British model and actress Jodie Turner-Smith had been cast to play Anne Boleyn in Channel 5's 3-part psychological drama. So this caused some outrage online because the historical accuracy of this, considering the fact that Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife, is actually white. Obviously it is historically inaccurate, but it doesn't necessarily mean they shouldn't do it, considering the fact that it's pegged as a psychological drama, not a historical drama or any other genre that prioritizes history. So they have more creative license and with like something that would focus more on the historical aspect. From this point right now, from what we've seen, the like Tudor setting doesn't seem to be that important. I do think this opens up the conversation though surrounding historical accuracy and how much people actually want and care about it in what they're watching, as well as how to add more minority representation into programs without pigeonholing them into it. I'm impartial to the historical fiction genre, particularly in books, but I always go into it assuming that it's more fiction than history. But that being said, I do expect to learn some small little things from these style of books. Even with programs, I do expect to learn something as well, and I never really find out that things are historically inaccurate until I end up seeing an article by online saying so and so is not true, so and so isn't real, all the historical accuracies in this show and whatnot. And I assume it's like that for most people. Also, in terms of historical accuracy and representation, I don't like when they tend to just throw in one black person into like a historical drama and like to be diverse, because I'm generally looking and wondering, were black people actually there in history at that moment in time? Were they in this position of power at this moment in time? Because it's never like a whole gang of black people or Asians in this setting. It's just one black person like there to represent all minorities or whatever, and it doesn't really make sense or really seem natural. For example, I've recently started watching Harlots, which is an ITV show that they're currently showing on BBC. But in that show there is a black man who's married to the woman who owns a brothel. I think her name's Mary or Margaret. I haven't watched that many episodes, but yeah, so she's married to him. However, when she goes to someone else's house and a black woman opens the door, she automatically assumes that that black woman is either a maid or a servant or something, when in fact she's the woman of the house. Even in this program, when there's a black man with a black woman, when this white woman then sees a black woman somewhere else, she assumes that her place in the hierarchy is much lower. Harlots might be a bit of a bad example because the fact that the show focuses on prostitutes and they're all kind of really outcast, but it still kind of shows you the questions that can arise when you're just adding minority ethnic groups to a historical drama. I do wonder though if the same people who have concerns about Jodie Turner-Smith playing Anne Boleyn raised the same questions when they watched or heard about Hamilton, considering the whole cast is ethnically diverse when in fact in reality the people they are playing are predominantly white. I'm all for us having more representation on screen and having programs look more like the society we live in, but I'm not for throwing minorities into white stories and then calling it a day and then giving yourself a pat on the back for it. They're doing this also with women. They have been doing this also with women in roles, like doing Ghostbusters with female cast and Ocean 8. They're just merely turning stories that are written for male characters into those of female characters. And I feel like it's more valuable to then, if you want to put more women on screen in successfully and like for long-term change, you would like put them in stories or use stories that were actually made for women and allow them to flourish in that role rather than just switching roles from men to women. And I think the same applies for ethnic minorities. The Oscars have changed the rules for their best pictures following, I think, after the next Oscars when it starts. And basically there's a whole bunch of criteria and they have to hit at least 2 things for their movie to be considered for the Oscars. And I don't like this because I fear that they're just going to shove minorities into things just to reach this quota, just to get this award, as opposed to genuinely focus on stories that were written or created for black characters or minority characters, as well as have minorities behind the screen. Walt Disney right now is the main company that's showcasing black actors in white roles. I say white roles with air quotes because they're mainly like cartoons and not real, and it's not really the same thing. But yeah, last year was announced that Hailey from Chloe and Hailey, a music duo, was going to play Ariel, and recently it's announced that Yara Shahidi is going to play Tinkerbell. When it was announced that Hailey was going to play Ariel, got a lot of backlash online, and I was convinced that a lot of it was rooted in racism. I'm still quite convinced of that. But also now this announcement of Yara being Tinkerbell, I do wonder why we keep changing, or why they want to keep changing these roles from white characters into those for black people, instead of generally making a story for black people. If they really cared about representation, long-term representation, they would do that. Also, in terms of the historical accuracy, the Disney princesses that exist for minorities are riddled with them. Pocahontas and Mulan are riddled with historical accuracies or creative liberties in their film versions. For example, the Mulan remake doesn't have Mushu the dragon in it because they found it to be they said it was offensive and inaccurate, obviously because of freaking dragon. And then also Pocahontas is shown to be like a grown woman in the Disney cartoon when she was actually 12 years old. Like I said, if Disney really wanted to do long-term change representation, they would create characters that were black or were Asian or were disabled or were gay, instead of like converting other characters into those style of characters. But I highly doubt Disney will do that, because especially considering right now they're committed to remaking every and anything they have, regardless of quality. I think part of the reason they're pigeonholing black characters in the entertainment industry into films or stuff they already have is because they get a guaranteed investment or fan base or interest, rather than taking the risk of having a completely new idea and potentially losing money out on that. I think they did the same thing with women in films, and are still doing the same thing with women in films. On top of that, outrage culture gets people a lot of clicks and attention. If you look at any of the Kardashians, they are thriving of any amount of outrage they get. And I really wish at one point we would realise that all this outrage doesn't do anything for us as like people who are angry, and I don't think a lot of people are genuinely changing after the internet yells at them. They're just learning to do it differently. Like I said in my last video, the entertainment industry has always been about money, but they're just hiding it a lot less now. Back to Anne Boleyn, I don't even know if I'll watch the show because it's not my style of show. Like, I do like historical fiction, but I prefer it more in books than in TV shows and film. It doesn't really work the same for me on screen, I don't know. But yeah, so I may not watch it. I don't think the show will be bad, but I do question the casting choice and the choice to put a black actress in this role. I know Jodie Turner-Smith has said stuff about like feminism and stuff like that, but I still question it. And I would love overall to see more authentic, genuine, interesting, innovative, all of the good stuff, representations of different groups of people on screen, rather than just switching one and making it for somebody else and saying, yep, that will make them happy. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of the casting of Jodie Turner-Smith as Anne Boleyn, and how you think minority representation can be better in the entertainment industry. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, also subscribe if you want to.